All right, we are rolling, and welcome to another episode of On the Delo. I am doing another solo cast. I hope you enjoyed the last episode, or if you haven't listened to the last episode, it'll be on next, and that's about what Delo eats. I know that is a fascinating subject for a lot of you. Please, if you get a chance, subscribe to the podcast. Please give it a 5-star. Share it with your friends. It means a lot. I'm 135 episodes in now. I am by no means on Jeremy Scott level of 600 episodes, but we're working our way up there. It's about doing the reps. So also, I've got November 1st, just getting started. My new book, Reignite Your Spark. It is coming out November 1st. So please, by all means, buy a book. Put a lot of my, let's just say, thoughts and life journey into this. And I think for some of us that are looking for a little bit of a reignition of what's going on in our lives, or what we've lost, because we get so busy and so just drugged down by, these societal norms that we feel like we have to participate in. I wrote this book to help reignite something. And whether that's like your love for music, whether that's your love for any sort of exercise or like tennis or any of these things that you used to do a lot of as a kid or say in your, early adulthood, and now you don't do them because now we are part of the big society. I must get up, go to work, and do all this stuff. And yes, we should still work hard and do all that stuff, but we've got to find a balance so that we can work not harder, but smarter and more efficient, which means more productive and more happiness, in my opinion. So Reignite Your Spark coming out soon. All right, let's dig into this podcast and let's get into what I want to talk about today. This is what I call do not let an industry or do not let your industry define you. And what I mean by that is we don't necessarily remember like a time back when, let's just say in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, all that sort of stuff, where, the man would go and wear the suit and he would be the salesperson of properness, and these industries all came out and they really defined a generation. They defined hardworking men and women who went out there, busted their tails. Some, were against the grain, and those that were against the grain were a lot of times looked at almost as rebels. They were looked at as people that weren't necessarily doing things the right way, albeit they were getting more influence and they were doing more things that created a better opportunity and a better society for people, in my opinion. And because they went against the grain, because they went with their passion, because they went with their love, because they went with certain things within them, they were able to break out of these certain molds. You look at the iron workers and the coal miners and all the people that went and worked so hard and ended up sacrificing their lives. For the most part, people work so hard that they sacrifice their lives. And I still think to a point people do that today. I think people sacrifice a lot of their life just to be productive for other people and to do it in the way that other people dictate of how that should be. Look, I'm a firm believer in working hard. I'm a firm believer in doing the things that make a difference and helping others. But I will tell you, with this life that I have and what I have learned and what I am learning and what I want to learn, that I will do this my way and I will do it how I want to do it. And that is just how I believe that life was put forth to me in order to be the best version of me, and not just for myself, but for all of those around me, for my family, for my friends, for my customers, you name it, for strangers, This is not an act of perfection on my part or anybody else's part. If we ever think that we're perfect, if we ever think that things are going to come in and they're just going to happen the way that we perceived or the way that we think, we are completely wrong, because everything is changing and evolving on every second. And albeit we may come into a time where we feel like something should have happened one way, but then it happens another way. And that, my friends, is the way that it should have happened. So don't let an industry define you. I got into insurance out of being in the music industry. I really thought I was going to be a music exec. I had my heart and soul and everything, kind of primed up for it and ready for it. And I was good at what I did. Even as a kid, I was there driving rock stars and pop stars and country stars and people around in vans. I was having conversations. I was not intimidated. I enjoyed it. Therefore, to think that it was just a dream, it really feels like a dream. And I'll get more into a lot of the cool people that I ran into and what I did and just what I can remember as far as just living a normal life and having all that. Unbeknownst to me, did I realize I was going to get into business with my family, my dad specifically. And I was always proud of my dad. I always saw how hard he worked. I always saw his passion for people. I always saw his drive. I don't think my dad coming out of college and playing, football and being, a bodybuilder and a big, dude or whatever. I don't think it was ever destined for him to be a top insurance salesman for Allstate Insurance, but that's what he did. And that's what he put himself into. And that was where he, created this pride and this ability to connect with people and to connect and to give them something that, albeit not everybody wants to buy, but they did, and they, for the most part, had to. It was one of those things where everybody wanted insurance, but they didn't want insurance. So why not buy it from somebody that you want to buy it from, and somebody that is friendly and together and became your friend. And so I learned a lot of that. Even as a kid, I would listen to my dad on the phone, and I would hear him talk to people. And there was never a time where I really remember my dad ever selling anybody on anything. It wasn't really a sales call, albeit it was a sales call, which is really ironic. I learned these traits. I learned these things. I would listen through the door. I'd listen through the wall. I would listen through the open door. And I would just hear all of this. And that is exactly what created me into the man and into the working individual that I am today. Now, I also took some other cues from my dad, and those cues were how he acted, how he dressed, how he reacted, and the things that he did on a day in and day out basis. My dad just did not give a shit. He cared so much that he didn't give a shit. Does that make sense? Does that register with you? I know you're listening. You're like, wait a minute, that's counterintuitive. But if you really think about it, a lot of the people out there that you see and you look in regard and you're like, wow, this man or this woman, they're kind of over the top. They're the ones that I think for the most part get these reactions because they are true and authentic within who they are. So when I look at, getting out of the music business and then tapping into insurance, I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know if I would still get to be me. I didn't know if I was, signing a contract for a career that I wasn't necessarily lined up or, ready to do, because that's not who I was. Ever since I was a little kid, I was a smart ass. I had a big mouth. But I was always passionate, I always cared, and I always did the right thing. At least I thought I did. So I get into insurance. I don't really like it the first couple of years that I'm doing it because I just don't have the heart and soul of the passion. And it wasn't until I got into the whole, the bar and restaurant insurance mantra of what I did that I didn't understand. I didn't learn too much about what it is that I could really do. And what I mean by that is, what could I really do? So I created this niche. I went for an industry that is traditionally stuffy, suit and tie, just your big industry BS that you deal with all the time. And I realized that those people were not my people. The people that were my people were the people that I was insuring: the customer, the hospitality owner, the restaurateur, the nightclub owner, the coffee shop person. Those were my people. And I saw myself as one of those people. And I went out and I bought places to learn more about those people and to talk like those people. And so when you talk and you live and you invest in an industry, you become part of that industry, although you are offering a service within that industry that's very important and very needed. And I do feel that that has become a lot of my success and not backing down from doing that sort of thing. Now, it took a lot of sacrifice, and it took a lot of will on my part, and it took a lot of living with the parents and not, having bills so that I could live and really racking up a book of business. And that's fine. I'm sure I've talked about that on other podcasts. I'll talk about it on Jeremy's podcast, the sacrifices that we have to make. That's just the reality of the situation. We all have to make sacrifices to get to certain places where we're at. I made my sacrifices. Now I'm at the place that I'm at. I'm happy. It's good. I want to do more. I get all that. But the greatest gift of what I was able to do as I was doing all this stuff was to be able to just be myself. I didn't try to be different. I was different. I was me. I was the Delo, always from the beginning. I was the guy who wore Rat and Van Halen t-shirts to insurance meetings, because that's what resonated with the audience and the people around me that were buying from me. They felt comfortable. They felt a part of me. They felt a part of hospitality. I didn't show up smelling like cigarettes and wearing a suit. Again, nothing wrong with that. There's a whole gaggle of men and women that do that sort of stuff and feel comfortable within that environment that was created for us back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and still want to show that sort of quote unquote respect for what it is. I remember I was on TV one time, and I had a gentleman who's in the same industry as us. He sent me a note and said, you should show the industry some respect. And basically it was because I didn't wear a suit and tie to talk about insurance on the news. And that has always stuck with me, because I didn't take it as an insult. I just took it as something where he literally sees his industry just as that, just within that box. And I was somehow invading his industry and making him feel like there was, somebody disrespecting it. I can't get into his thoughts or feelings and tell him whether he's wrong or right. It just was the reality of his interpretation of how I looked to him. But my interpretation of how I looked to me was comfortable, confident, fitting, and just rock and roll, baby. Rock and roll. Interview went great. I'm still here. I still wear Rat and Van Halen t-shirts. Life is good, right? So don't try to be different. Just be different. Just be who you are. There's no trying. You are who you are with what you are, and that is what has worked for me. The definition of who you are is not, it's kind of like our genetics. Like there's no two people that are alike. There's a lot of similarities. There's a lot of looks. There's a lot of features. I have a lot of similarities to my dad. Are we the same person? No. My brothers, are we the same person? No. Completely different genes, completely different people. It's the same with how you are as an individual. And if you are different, what a blessing that is. The more different people that there are out there, the more that we can learn from other people, the more that we don't have to sit there with ourselves, because we have ourselves to sit with. I can go sit with myself anytime and just be with me. And that can get really old really quick. Sometimes I love it. Sometimes I need to get away from it, and I need to be around others. And I want those others to be different. I want them to add value socially, mentally, and logically to my life, which they do. that being my wife and my kids and all of my friends, and especially people in hospitality, especially people that I insure that have these ideas and these plans of brilliance to bring people all together within community, within inside of their establishments to create really fun and exciting environments and great tasting foods, hitting all of the senses of our bodies. And the thing is that not all of us, not any of us, are going to have the same experience in the same place. Some will like, some will not like, some will overly like, some will kind of like. It doesn't matter. And some will just go in with others and be like, this is great, I'm going to come back. It's a feeling of comfort. And that's the thing. People want a feeling of comfort. They want a feeling of people that are looking out for them and doing what is in their best interest together as a team and in unity. So when people go after your industry, or they want to state that what you do isn't of value or not worth it, don't take it personally. I know I have a lot. And at the end of the day, what am I? I'm a dude that sells insurance. I'm a dude that basically has you buy a contract for if something goes wrong. And most people don't want that something to go wrong. But if it does, they want to know that they're protected and they have this or that. And so if people personally, want to attack you for what you do, don't let it attack you for who you are, because those are two different things. And if you know deep down you're doing the best job, you're logical, you're ethical, you've got all these things put together, then you know what you've done and you know that you've done the best job at it. Excuse me, I have to get some water. So just because, again, somebody's had a bad experience with an accountant, an attorney, a gym owner, you name it, it doesn't constitute that bad experience should dwindle over to you. And sometimes a minute to educate about who you are and what you do and why you do it and why you're passionate and how you're going to help, sometimes that minute to do that can make all the difference in the world. I think sometimes I know I have in the past, and maybe I still do in this moment. I'm trying not to. But I know that there's a jump to defend yourselves. When you meet somebody for the first time, whether in person or on the phone, it's their experience they've had in the past. And really, it's not your job to change their mind. It's just your job to be you, to be different, to be the way that you want to represent yourself, which then in turn can represent the industry that you're in a different light. And that, to me, is such a gift and such a beautiful way to resonate with others and then give them a different perspective on something that they may not have seen. And now they enjoy that aspect of going and getting, a contract done, or, getting their house cleaned, or getting insurance, whatever that may be. So that's a great thing as well. Do what brings you joy, and do what brings you joy. This is right? Passion, joy, all those things. I talk about it all the time. Again, just like reigniting your spark. What brings you joy? Why does it bring you joy? And when you're looking at your day-to-day job and you're doing, your work, what are the passions within that work that you love to do? And if you're in a good position where you're an entrepreneur and you're, an owner, and again, we have this built different community. Jeremy, Scott, and I, we're building this thing out. This is for small, big, medium owners that want to network and come together and get a lot of tools and a lot of the experience that we have. And I bring that up because the point being is that if you're working and you're working hard and you love who you are, and you love the mechanism of how you do, have your energy translate into, financial gain, then if you can, table the things that you don't want to do. I'll tell you right now, I do not sit behind a computer and type. I'm sitting here talking on a podcast to put marketing out there in the hopes that you listening or you listening again will either come acquire about any of the services or the things that I've done, for the last 30 years that I can give you value on, or you will refer somebody over to me because of me putting this out there and doing this. And not everybody is doing this in your industry or any other industries. There's a very small 1% of us that go and do this, and we find value in it. And I find value in this, but not just value. I find joy. I find enjoyment and joy and all those things to put this together in a nice package and be able to explain the mechanisms of, again, not letting an industry define us. That's right. So be you, be different, find the joy, and enjoy every second and every moment of your day, because that's all you have. All you have is the time that you are living right now in this moment, because the time behind you, you do not get back. And the time in front of you is never guaranteed. And we hear it all the time. And this is just me reiterating that and reminding you about the ability to live in the time that you're in now and to enjoy it, no matter what it is that you're doing or no matter how you're doing it. So again, thank you for listening to this podcast. It's number 135. Please subscribe. Please like. Please check out my YouTube. I am the Delo. Follow me on Instagram. I am the Delo. Check out the Built Different community when we launch it. All this stuff is in show notes. Really appreciate everybody listening, and we're going to have some really cool guests on soon. And until next time, peace out.